In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how you can use Git and GitLab for team assignments or group assignments. Now, the workflow you see on your screen here is part of the PDFs for session 4 for the ICT workshop that I shared with you on Dropbox. And this is the workflow of how you would conduct a group assignment, how you would finish a group assignment. Now, the first step is that the instructor or TA would create a class GitLab repo. And so that's here on the left. We would then make a fork or a copy of that repo and assign that to the team lead. Okay, so now we're talking about a team project or a case or something like that. And so there's only one person who's going to get an actual fork or a full copy. And that happens to be the team lead. Now the team lead is just the person in your group who was listed first in the file that I have with all your tokens from GitLab. So there's no special privilege or ability or anything that is signified by being team lead. It just happens to be the person that was first in the file. Okay, so the team lead has a full copy of the original repo and has master privileges to make edits and changes to that file. However, because it's a group project, others also have master access to that same repo, and they can make changes and edits and commit those and push those. Okay, so here's the process. The faculty member or TA creates the repo. We make a copy for the team lead, and then the different people in the team will clone that repo. Okay, so here, for example, is the team lead's computer. The team lead would clone the repo, make edits, save those, and commit those, and push those back up to the repo when he or she is done. And in the same vein, anybody else that's also in that team would also clone that same team lead's repo, make changes and edits, save those, commit those, and push those back up to the repository. Now, an issue that can occur here is that suppose that you are working on some edits from a repo that you cloned a while back, and in the meantime, the team lead has made some edits as well and pushed those up to the repo. Now, if they're on different files, that's not going to be much of a concern. That's not going to cause any problems because Git will automatically adjust those and merge those files as needed. However, suppose you're working on the same file at the same time. That is possible that you get what is called a merge conflict. And I already posted a video about how you can create a merge conflict and how you can resolve them. Okay? It basically just means it's not clear whose changes for a particular line in the same file should get priority. And so somebody has to go in and take a look at that and make some small edits. And so the way to avoid these merge conflicts when you're working in a group is to always pull before you start working on the code. Okay, so anytime, no matter any edit you're going to make, pull and then start working on stuff. Okay, and that applies to the team lead. That applies to anybody in your group. Okay. So I'm going to start the demo on this, and then I'm going to ask for some help from my TA, and then pause the video, and then I'm going to show you how a merge conflict might arise and how we could resolve it. Okay, so this is the repo. I happen to be the team lead in a group with the TA, and so this is the master copy that I created, and so I am now listed as just a team member, so not as faculty, and so I only have reporter privileges for the class RSM group assignment practice, and I am the team lead in a group with a TA, and so this is what my repo name looks like. So this is my username, and this is the repo name, and then the TAs will actually look exactly like this. So she will also have rsm-vienna.js, and she'll be able to clone that. She'll also have master privileges for that. She will clone and make edits, commit, and then push those back up. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start the process now. I'm going to click on this link, and I'm going to go ahead and clone this in gitgadget. Clone, paste, and there we go. Okay. Yep. All right, so there's a bunch of files in here. Let me walk you through what's going on here. So click on the practice assignment RMD. just going to make that a bit bigger. And so there's some text in here that I recommend you read. I'm just going to give you the highlights of it. So again, this assignment is to provide some practice on how to complete a group assignment. I am the team lead in this particular demo that I'm doing. So if you're not the team lead, or if you are, you still need to clone the repo. And then after cloning the assignment, each team member should separately provide information requested below. And the information is first name, last name, let's see what it is, I'm scrolling down. First name, preferred name or first name, and favorite food. Okay, so nothing complicated. And so what it suggests here is that there are two basic workflows that you can use when you're working on a group assignment. The first is everybody makes their changes to this one file, practice-assignments.rmd. Now, if you're making changes to the same file at the same time, then there is a possibility of a merge conflict. Okay? However, if you're using this workflow that I describe here, that would just mean that you have to set up some type of schedule where you say, well, the first one person is going to make their changes, save, commit, and push those. Then the next person is going to pull those changes, so they have the very latest version of all the files from GitLab, then make his or her changes, save those, commit those, and push those back up to GitLab. Then the next person pulls, make sure that it has all the changes, including the changes from the first two group members that made their changes, edit, save, commit, and push. And then finally, the group lead would pull in all the information that everybody else has provided, add his or her own information, save, commit, and push, and you would be all done. Okay? That works fine. That will work just fine, and it's a very common process to use. However, you do have to set up some scheduling so that you make sure that not two people are working on the same file at the same time. Again, you could still do it, right? You could literally work on the changes at the same time, but then there's likely to be a merge conflict, and so at that point, that's not a huge problem, but then somebody has to go in and fix those changes, fix the merge conflict, okay? Which is straightforward, but might be intimidating the first time you see it. Now, the alternative workflow is that each group member makes changes in a separate file. For example, the team leads create a number of files, such as those here. So you see here info member 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me click on what this looks like for, let's say, info member 2. And info member 2 then provides his or her information in here, makes the changes, saves those, and pushes those up. Now, the nice thing about this is, if I'm the team lead, I would be providing my information in info member rmd1, which is a separate file than the one that other group members would be working on. And so if I save, commit, and push, there's not any problem because we're all working on separate files. Okay? And so that can be an easier to use workflow, especially if you're starting out with doing this, as opposed to, like I said, making changes of information for each group member in one and the same file, and then just having to make sure you do that sequentially. Okay? Now, how does this work if it's separate files? So suppose you want to submit one final report for your assignment, and let's say that's going to be a report called practice assignment dot, let's say, HTML or PDF or whatever you would like to submit. Would you like to generate from this .rmd or markdown file? It would have to pull in information from these 4 separate files. Okay, so how does that work? Now, it's actually pretty straightforward. This is what's called a code chunk. And this code chunk is set up specifically to pull in a child file. Okay, so this is practice-assignment.rmd, and it's going to, when it generates, it's going to pull in information from info-member-2, info-member-1, and so on. Pull that all in the process of generating an HTML or a PDF. Okay, so you're basically like attaching or embedding information from other files. And so again, both of these workflows will work just fine. Now, what I'm going to do is, I haven't made any changes yet. Now I'm going to ask the TA to make some changes to info member 2 as well as to practice assignment RMD, okay, specifically here. And when I come back, hopefully those changes will be made. So I'm going to pause the video and then come back when the changes have been implemented by the TA. Okay, we're back. So if we look online, and this is the RSM group assignment practice repo, we'll see that something has changed. And so there's some changes that have been made a couple hours ago now by the TA. to two files, practice assignment RMD and info member 2 RMD. And we can check to see what has been changed in the commit that she made. So there's two commits in total. This was the original that I uploaded, yes, this is the original upload. And this is the commit that my TA Seong made. And so we can see that the main changes here are in info member 2 RMD, where she added her last name, first name, and her favorite food, which is a type of very fancy looking French pastry I looked up on Google. So interesting food choice here. And we also see that she made a change in the practice assignment.rmd document for group member number 2, where she again put in her first name, last name, and her favorite food. Now, I am the team lead of our group. I've just been assigned that because I was first in the list of GitLab information. And so what I need to do as well is I also need to provide my first name. So I'll do that. Sorry, my last name. And my first name. My favorite food. And so I'm doing that under member number 1. Okay, so I'm going to save that change. And then under info member RMD, I'm also going to give my last name, first name, and favorite food. Okay, now, can you imagine that something possibly could go wrong here? So this is the file that I have on my computer right now. Okay, and that doesn't have any information that my TA Seong put in there, right? Because I haven't pulled that information, things that she changed, committed on her computer, and then pushed to GitLab. I don't have those changes on my computer yet, so I don't have this information here. Now, when I pull down those changes, what I'm going to see, of course, is that this file is going to change. Would it have any effect on this file, info member 1? The answer is no, because she didn't touch that file at all. What about this file? Well, here, I know if I look at GitLab that she made changes to practice assignment.rmd, and she added information here. And so now I'm also making changes to that same file. That starts to get a little risky. We might get a merge conflict, if you saw the previous video on merge conflict, because then we have some confusion about, well, in this particular file, what changes should or should not be kept. And as the team lead, it's up to you to decide which changes should or should not be maintained. So let's just say I forgot to do what you should always do before you start working on code if you're working in a group, is to pull, right? Every time after you've cloned, you and your teammates have cloned the group repo for the assignment. Anytime you start working, the first thing you should do is press on the down arrow here to pull any changes that in the meantime have been pushed up by other group members to the remote repo. I can also do that through the commit tab. Again, I can click on pull and get that information down. Right? But suppose I just completely forget that and I've made changes to these two files, info member 1 and practice assignment. And now I go into commit and say, okay, I'm going to stage both of these. I'm going to say added my info, and I'm going to go ahead and commit that, right? So that's a snapshot for this point in time, what the current state of the files are on my computer. Okay, excellent. And now what do you think is going to happen when I say push? I get this nasty looking email that says, your updates were rejected because the remote, aka gitlab.com, the server, contains work that you do not have locally. Aha, okay. So what I should have done, and again, this is the way you should always work in practice, I'm just showing you what could happen if you forget to do that, is you should hit pull. Now the question, of course, is are we going to get a merge conflict anywhere? We shouldn't get it at all related to either info member 1 or info member 2, but it's possible we get something in practice assignment.rmd because both Seong and I both made changes to the same file. Let's see if it can figure that out. So I'm going to click on pull, and now it says, oh, it made a merge, a recursive through a recursive strategy, and it added information from info member 2, and it made some changes to practice assignment .rmd. So no changes to info member 1. Let's go take a look and see what happened. Okay, so here now is practice assignment.rmd, and that has been merged very nicely. So here now is the information from both myself that I added in earlier and the information that was already on the remote on GitLab that Seong had pushed earlier. So that was merged in together perfectly. Excellent. Now let's take a look at info member 2. Again, here we have our information from Seong now. Add a space here. And info member 1, again, no changes have been made there. Okay. Now you see that there's one change that I made to info member 2. So let's go back now to our commit page. You'll see that it says up here, your branch is ahead of origin master. And again, that refers to the remote server, because there's stuff now on my computer, which is the combination of the things that I added and the things that my TA Seung put in. Right? That information is not yet combined and available on the remote on gitlab.com. And so I made this one change here just to add a little space here, just for, well, I just wanted to add the space. And I was going to say, this should be now the final version for our group. Okay, so we're going to hit commit again because I wanted that space changed. And now when I hit push, all the information, the complete version that I have on my computer, will now be pushed up to GitLab, and the final version should be there, which contains the information from both me and the TA. All right. So now, again, if I look at practice assignment, I see member 1 information, member 2 information. Let's go up to GitLab. Let's go back to our project, and you'll see now that a couple of things have been added. Right? So where I am now, in case you were confused, looking at the commits. Okay, so this was the original commit, then this is the changes that Seung made, and this is the third commit that I just pushed through, which is I added my information, that was a commit. Then, because I'd forgotten to pull down the information from Seong, there's this merge that happened, and then there's this final version that I added on because I added that space. Right, so I pushed that all up to GitLab. And now let's go and check the files to see what's going on. So let's take a look at info member 1. Looks good. That's my information. Info member 2. That's Seong's information. And then in practice assignment, we can see that both of our information is here. Okay. Now I can, like I said, look at the commits, and I can see that what that happened in that final version. That was literally just the space that I added on. Let's look at what happened when we did the merge. All right. So this is where the information from Seong was added, and this was the commit before that where I had forgotten to first do a pull where my information was added. Okay, so this all looked great. Now one thing that I can do as well is I can look at a specific file such as practice assignment. Right, this is the raw text, if you will, that has the information for both me and Seong. And what I can do is I can say, look at blame. So who is responsible for each line in the particular file? You see that most of this actually comes from me when I was logged in as the instructor. But let's take a look here. Okay, so this is something that my student account was responsible for, to change these lines. This is one that I, as the instructor, added. And these are the lines that Seong changed in the file we're looking at right now, which was practice assignment RMD. Okay, and the other ones again are my responsibility as the instructor. Okay, so that's basically how you set up a group assignment. Again, if you want to see the workflow, the instructor or TA will put up an assignment. We will make a copy of that, a fork for the team lead, just the first person in the file that we use to assign all the assignments. And then everybody in the group will have read and write access to that, if you will. So everybody's going to clone a copy of that repo, the team lead's repo, to their computer, make edits, save, and push. And the same for the team lead. So clone that, edit, save, commit, and push. But just the most important thing to remember here is when you're working in a team, always pull before you start working on a group project. Okay, that's going to minimize the risk of merge conflicts. All right, so I hope that gives you an idea of how you can work. And again, a convenient way to avoid any risk of a merge conflict is to try to have each group member provide their information in a separate file, right? Their analysis for a particular part of the assignment, and then use things like either child, right? So this is bring in the child file info member1.rmd, or you can use the source command. Suppose that you've written as one of the group members some R code to include into the file. You can use source and then source example, where the source example file is right here. This is just something that's going to print. And so we can go ahead and knit this file now. And what we should see as we wrap up here is that we have the information for both group members. This was deliberately typed in that one and the same file. But then when we look at the input from workflow 2, this is pulling information from that from those two separate files, info member 1 and info member 2, that is pulled into the master RMD document, practice assignment.rmd. And here at the bottom, we have something printed out through this piece of R code that we sourced in and had run as part of the knitting process. Okay? All right, I hope that gives you good enough information to get started with group projects.